Welcome back, everybody. Hope the break was good, and welcome to the last session of the day, Beyond the Box. I am going to do the thing to make it so that I don't know what to do with my hands, so I'm going to do the Ron White thing and just kind of like hold this. Works pretty well, usually. So I think like at this point, if you've even glanced at like any sort of tech news at all lately, then you're probably feeling like you're playing a little bit of a high stakes game of like Buzzword bingo :AI edition. But like every box on your bingo card just says like agent, and you're like, I don't know like what that actually means. So like the public perception of that right now generally is kind of just like this, right? It's like, oops, all agents. It's a bit like that scene out of The Matrix Reloaded with all of the identical Mr. Smiths. I also realized that like this one slide is doing a fantastic job of just like dating me right now. We've got like the 2003 movie reference and then a 1997 serial. So there's that. So thankfully, for many reasons, the reality of it is like that this is much more vast and diverse and far less like megalomaniacal. So that's good. The point we're really trying to make here is that we're not just stamping out a bunch of clones, right? So the Google AI ecosystem is pretty massive. It's interconnected, this like wheel of productivity, developers, cloud systems. Thank you for the text. That's good. We got it a little bit bigger there. And like data analytics tools, pieces like that. And so all of this stuff is just designed to fit very like specific needs, but they all kind of work in concert, right? So that wheel is like a lot to digest all at once. So let's kind of break some of this down into how we actually integrate AI as it stands today, because not every problem requires this like autonomous digital mastermind, like it's not really necessary. So kind of on the simplest end of things, if you're kind of going left to right here, we have what is just called a direct API call. It's a very basic request response, nothing probably anybody in this room hasn't heard of before. You send a prompt, you get an answer. Great. It's perfect when you need something that's just like simple control, speed, and basically like full authority over that input. Okay, now stepping this direction towards me, we step up the complexity a little bit, and then we have AI applications, or you could think of them as assistants. And so you can think of this more as like your predictable, like human supervised taskmaster with a user interface, which is like a long way of just saying chatbot. We kind of all know chatbots at this point. And then finally, right here, we have things for tasks requiring more like independent thinking, like multi-step orchestration, on-the-fly decisions, stuff like that. That's where we deploy an actual AI agent. That's where the word should come in. And this is really an autonomous system that uses things like tools, planning, even self-correction at this point to pursue the goals that you give it. You should choose wisely when going through these, unless you are the kind of person that just enjoys using a sledgehammer to swat at a fly. In which case, you can come and see me after the presentation. I'll be at one of the tables. I have the number of a really good therapist. And so, okay, that's cool, great, fine. But what exactly is an AI agent, right? There's a lot of confusion about that terminology because it kind of gets thrown around. So simply put, it's an application that reasons on how to best achieve a goal based on the inputs and the tools at its disposal. So the key components that make this whole like magic happen are what you're seeing here, which is those three pieces: the model, the tools, and then the orchestration of the whole thing. So the model is kind of what's doing a lot of the heavy lifting. It reasons over the goals, determines the plan, and then generates a response for you. The tools are, you can kind of think of as like its hands, or quite literally just think of like a tool belt. It goes to fetch data, performs actions by calling other APIs, services, so on and so on. And then that last piece, certainly not least, is the orchestration sort of layer there. And that's where the memory, state, planning approach, all of that stuff is maintained. You can kind of think of that as like your very highly capable digital intern that actually remembers what you told it yesterday. All right. So that's a pretty good segue into the kind of like the meat and potatoes of this thing, which is Vertex AI, or kind of like what I like to refer to it as the end of the dreaded integration tax. So I think it's probably pretty safe to assume that most folks in this room kind of know the pain of trying to like duct tape together 5 different platforms and trying to get a model to just like output something pretty basic. I think we've all tried to do that at some point. Vertex AI is something that solves this by giving you essentially your entire stack in one very convenient place. So at the foundation right here, we have the AI Hypercomputer, which sounds like something that the Avengers would probably use, but it is actually just our incredibly powerful infrastructure that kind of lives underneath all of this. So then if we move up a floor to the model garden, you can go through, you can pick first party, you can pick third party or open source models. Kind of like you're browsing like an artisanal AI farmer's market, and I assure you that every model is definitely free range and locally sourced. If you, however, don't find precisely what you're looking for in all of that, then there is also the model builder for crafting your own custom solutions. And then finally, up there at the penthouse, probably the spot that I can't afford, that one is the agent builder. And so up there, you basically can use that to rapidly turn those models into actual applications that then your folks in the enterprise can use. So our goal here is to accelerate your time to deployment and rescue your team from the endless science project phase. I know even in my own personal work, I get caught in that one for a long time and probably lose some sleep. With Google's SDKs and the managed tools, your developers can customize and evaluate the models fast enough to actually show the business side of things some ROI, which is a win for everybody. And because there's potential that your CFO might be watching this or might hear about it later, Vertex AI is absolutely built to optimize performance and cost. Win-win. So you really do end up getting like the best price to performance ratio on the market, meaning you can fine tune these models, whatever you decide to pick, on your specific business data, which I think is critical, without having to sell off the break room espresso machine to pay for your cloud bill. And finally, to make sure that this all works at scale, we bake in Gen AI ops directly into the platform. So you get governance, reproducibility, accuracy. It's all right in there for you so that you can confidently manage these workloads across your entire enterprise. And also sleep soundly knowing that your AI is not going to go rogue on you at some point in the future. Now this is an intense slide. So I said Vertex AI puts the whole stack in one place. There it is. So let's look under the hood of this a little bit and kind of pick it apart so that maybe we can kind of see what makes this all tick, right? So you can sort of think of this as like the ultimate AI layer cake. So you go from the raw silicon at the bottom to all of your shiny business applications at the top, and all of that is safely wrapped in Google's industry-leading security blanket. So kind of doing what we were just doing on the other one, if we start here at the bottom, starting at the basement, we have your secure foundation. So this engine is driven by our AI hypercomputer, as we mentioned, and BigQuery and the data cloud there. And what that does is it provides you the massive horsepower that is needed so that you're not waiting until the next ice age for models to train. And because we don't really want your new shiny AI assets just exposed to the wild, this is all locked down by your security command center, which is that layer right up on the next piece there. And so that way it's like treating your AI with the same care as your more traditional IT assets. You certainly wouldn't just expose an on-prem server just to anybody. So you wouldn't want to do that with this either, okay? All right, so moving on up, next, this is kind of where we get to what I'm just gonna call the blue box of Vertex AI. And so on the left, you have the model garden over there. Awesome, thank you so much. Which is basically kind of like, I used a lot of metaphors in this, so like a mixing and matching. So just go with me on it, it's fine. But this is like kind of like a premium matchmaking service for you and like your perfect foundation model. You guys kind of like a little bit of speed dating, kind of figure out where you want to be. And then in the middle, we provide the essential tooling to like build, deploy, and manage all of this stuff. So whether you're data scientists are starting from scratch, like in an LM, notebook LM, or if you're running a fully managed pipeline, your entire life cycle is going to be covered by all of this here. So next is where things start to get what I would consider to be actually really fun. That is the agentic layer there. So this is where we're going to go and turn the smart but like mostly static models into a more proactive agent by giving it the hands and the tools to interact with your world and the world at large. So we use enterprise tooling for grounding, along with hundreds of pre-built connectors, which is huge. Because, I mean, at this point, I'm sure there's a few. But for the most part, I don't think anybody really wants to write a lot of integration code just like from scratch. So why reinvent the wheel, right, if it's already there? And then using the agent builder and agent engine, you can orchestrate multi-agent apps and deploy them without really breaking much of a sweat, which is cool. And so finally, keeping this whole party from turning into just a chaotic free-for-all is our governance layer. So we have tools like the model registry and model armor, which, yes, it does sound like a very high-level D&D item. I'm kind of sad that it's not. That's okay. Ensure that your outputs are safe, compliant, and reproducible. That's important. And so all of this heavy-duty infrastructure, this very intense slide that we've been going over here, seamlessly bubbles up everything to this application layer right there at the top, and it delivers the finished, polished solutions like Gemini Enterprise to your business users, who will probably just assume that you invented magic, and if you can take it from me like you are under no obligation to correct them on that point. That's fine. All right, so as much as perhaps we would like it to be, building agents is not just a set it and forget it kind of situation. So to build this stuff at scale, we use a framework called the Agent Lifecycle, what you see here. So this is not too far off from anything if you're familiar with more traditional like SDLC or anything like that. This is not going to be crazy, but starting with the plan, that's kind of where you're going to select that model that you want to choose, define what goals you have, pick the tool set that is going to use, and perhaps most critically, identify your safety guardrails for that. Then the next step there is to actually build by iterating through the prompts and the complex orchestration logic. And then after that, we have test, using automated testing to ensure response accuracy and safety compliance so that it doesn't say anything wildly incorrect or potentially embarrassing. And then once it passes all of those things, you release the versioned agents to a secure managed runtime environment. And then finally, operate and monitor. So by auditing these interactions, capturing logs, checking detailed session traces, all of that good stuff, it is the circle of life, but like with less lions and a lot more code. So your pathway to building these out. So how do you actually deploy something like this across an entire enterprise without just causing complete chaos? Well, fortunately, you can kind of use this governed two-track strategy here, and we're going to see this in action in just a little bit. So it's a bit of a hybrid model, and it offers really the right tool for the right job at the right time. So you kind of have this build lane here in green, right? And that is for your software engineers, your data scientists. That's where they can use Agent Builder on Vertex AI to code out those more sophisticated, mission-critical kind of workflows. And then on what we are calling the Empower lane here, that is for your more like non-technical users to just get into Gemini Enterprise, right? So it's kind of like your AI productivity hub for the vast majority of people. And so this is the platform where like folks in HR or sales or what have you can securely find, use, and even build their own agents, as we kind of saw earlier with Donato's presentation. And build those out for more like self-service kind of automation. And we can do all this safely. And if you're the more technically inclined person, then you are also kind of like comfortable in the knowledge that they can do all these things without just like dropping production tables or something like that. Nobody wants to come to work to find that out. All right, so how are we using any of this to solve problems? So what we have here is an actual real world example that I just punched the microphone. I'm sorry to you and you. So basically what we're calling this is the marketing's content problem. So our marketing team, and I'm sure most other marketing teams, spend a lot of time just like manually sifting through industry news to find timely blog topics, posts, tracking down available subject matter experts to contribute to those sorts of things. I know Christine, she struggles with that one. I'm also kind of part of the problem on that one. So, and so what we really needed was like a solution to automate a lot of this discovery and matching. And so Promevo built out a multi-agent system using this whole platform. And so what that kind of looks like is an orchestration agent. That's kind of the meat of the whole thing. And that acts as your central intelligence layer. And that currently is using Gemini 3.0 Flash. And that manages those like cross-agent workflows. And it delegates the work out to a news agent for like that industry monitoring, and also a subject matter expert finder to discover and then track us down. And there's also a scheduler in there that can hook into our calendars because of course we're a Google shop, so we can hook directly into our Google Calendar, find out when people are free, and even schedule a meeting. Pretty cool. So essentially what we ended up doing is built this digital marketing coordinator that really never sleeps and does not require the coffee right there, but I do, so I'll grab that in a moment. All right, so this slide, you might be wondering, you're like, oh, everything up until this point has been like this really great, sleek, dark mode. I chose that on purpose, by the way, because obviously AI is like, you know, the new hotness, so it needs to look cool. Plus, I'm also a big fan of dark mode for most things. But something that you can do with this, and I'm now realizing because we're doing it on the projector here that I am not going to be able to do it live. So we might just skip over this one. But essentially, you might, if you're in Google Slides at all, you've probably seen this, like at the bottom, there's a little like prompt there to be like, hey, beautify this slide. The verbiage on that is actually changing or has changed, depending on what you're looking at, to enhance this slide. So rather than showing it directly, I was really trying to like dodge the demo like demons, and I still ended up getting at least one anyway. But talking through that, essentially the critical difference between them is like up until this point, that button has usually given you like a pretty good, like image that it'll generate for you or something like that, which is cool. The enhance this slide though, actually understands all of the bits and pieces in the slide and will build out all of the constituent parts of the slide for you as if you had built it yourself manually, which is really cool because then you can just go in and tweak just the little pieces you want. Like it'll put a text box, the images, everything, and it's all completely interactable. That was supposed to be a fun bonus one, but I talked through it instead because we weren't going to be able to do it. So that's okay, but you'll be able to try it out yourself soon. All right, so we are swapping over to the live demo portion so that you can actually see kind of like what this looks like. I'm gonna wake this guy up here. All right. Yeah, did we lose the mirroring again? Yeah, okay. Please hold, we're turning it off and on again. Let me know if it comes through. Yeah, cool. All right. Awesome. Okay. So what we are seeing here is the dashboard view, and this is inside of Google Cloud Platform. This is Vertex AI, and what we did, as we were just saying, is we had built out that agent flow for our marketing folks. And so if you are the one that's kind of behind the scenes, this is what you're going to see. So that's on that like left side of the, the flow that was in green, I believe. And so what I want to show you here is like you can test this out like after you've built out all the logic and all of that stuff. There's this neat little playground feature here. And as you can see, we've been running a lot of different examples. But you can actually test it out, and I want to run it so you can kind of see what this looks like under the hood when you run one of these. And so because this is, you know, just trying to get like information, I'm just going to ask it like, what was the most important news stories of the last, let's go with 48 hours. That seems fine. So then we shoot that off, and immediately what you see, it starts thinking, and then in a moment, what's going to happen is it's going to start popping off these little bubbles that are showing you the different steps that it's going through, like that. So you can see our orchestrator is now transferring over to the appropriate agents, fetching and returning news from RSS feeds, trying to basically collate all of the, you know, most important tech news of the last 2 days or so. And there you have it. So, so you end up getting a lot of cool stuff in here. And now that it's run, I can actually also show you, if you click on one of these, in the playground, you get a full event trace. So you can actually see what's going on under the hood here. And honestly, it's nothing too crazy. So this right here is the prompt that I put in, okay? And then after it gets that, you see the next step here, we have hit our orchestrator agent. And then this is where it is going to call these functions to transfer to the appropriate agent, in this case, because I asked about news. So that's where it's going to go there. And then if you step through this event chain, you can kind of see what it's doing. So we got the fetch and return news. It knows the target date and the date range just based on what I asked it, which is pretty cool. And then you end up getting your result blob here. And then at the very end, you get your nice actual formatted text with like markdown and all that fun stuff. So it's pretty neat to see all this under the hood as it works. So that's like one side of the fence. The other part of it, which like the vast majority of your organization is going to care about more, is not really like how the sausage is made, just that it tastes good. And so like that's this piece. So I swapped over here. So this is the actual Gemini Enterprise interface that I'm sure most of you are at least tangentially familiar with. And what you see here is, in addition to the stock agents that pretty much everybody is going to have in this list, with like deep research and notebook LM and so on, you also have your own custom agent that you have now built with the ADK. And you can select it here and basically do the same exact thing that we just tested out in the playground. And it'll do the same thing, but the end users, and because I am lazy, I'm just going to copy this. The end users don't see, because they don't need to, like any of that extra stuff, right? So I'm going to go ahead and run that. You know, it'd be interesting, actually, I've never done it, see if like asking it the same question twice, if it just gives the same exact news stories. Oh, cool. And then we hit a permission problem. All right, fun. All right, well, the demo has struck again, but essentially you see kind of how this is going to work, right? Assuming that you have set up all of the proper like IAM permission policies and all that stuff in your environment, your users will be able to use this and see the same exact markdown answer that I got on the other side of the fence. So with that, we're going to swap quickly back over to the slides. And by the way, I didn't mention this at the beginning, but I put the cube in cube jail because I kind of want to run through this. And since I have the benefit of being the last person today, if we have any questions on any of this stuff, we will be at the tables, and then we can just have those discussions during the roundtable sessions. So please come find us, come find me. All right, so I wanted to show you this too, because I think what's really important is like there's this sort of like magic box kind of feeling about how some of this works. But I think almost all of us are pretty familiar with prompts at this point. We're all pretty decent at being, you know, armchair prompt engineers. And so the reason I show this is because this is the actual code that is behind that orchestrator agent that's actually doing a lot of that heavy lifting. You might notice it's not really a lot. And also the crux of the whole thing, if you read this red text here, it's really just a well-crafted prompt. Like, so as long as you are crafting those prompts pretty well, that is kind of what's running underneath the engine of this. Now, of course, you could get like way more intense and complicated with that if you want to, but like even this is able to do like exactly what we wanted it to, you know, for this particular purpose. So I just wanted to show that just so you can kind of see what's under the hood. Now, speaking of questions, I threw this in here because we might be able to cut some of these off right at the pass, because these are some of the more like well-known like top questions that usually end up getting asked about stuff like this right now. So we're gonna just like rapid fire through some of these. So agent builder versus ADK. So the agent builder is that what you see is what you get drag and drop thing that you saw earlier. And then ADK is what I just kind of talked through now. So the really important difference there is builder. It's very fast. It's very like configuration first, in that the user can just go in, drag some stuff, put in the information they want, build out a flow, they're good to go. The ADK, however, that's where a lot of the more customization and like really fine tuning to your specific org's data, things like that, that's where that comes in, as well as the ability to actually like debug those processes and things like that. You can't really do that with the builder because it's just it's a UI really, right? Which for most cases is fine, but agent engine versus something like just using LangChain or like your own custom setup for doing these sorts of things, which is valid, you can do that. But of course, we're going to suggest that you go with agent engine. Not just because we're contractually obligated to, but because you get a lot of native integrations with that. You get like all of the GCP security, model armor, which we're gonna cover over there in a second, and then the very easy deployments to Google's infrastructure. So you're getting like a really decent package deal out of it, and it takes a lot of that legwork out of having to set up a lot of those systems yourself, not to mention maintenance. So ADK language support, what can you use in the agent development kit? For the most part, it's Python. That's the primary, which is probably surprising to nobody. But you can also use Java, Go, TypeScript. It supports all of those things as well. Model lock-in, that's another one. Do you want the walled garden scenario? Fortunately, no. That's one of the big strengths of using this, is that it is model agnostic. So with the Open Agent Protocol, which I believe is under the purview of the Linux Foundation as of like a few years ago. But of course, Gemini 2.5 and now 3 are going to provide that best like native performance. But if you really do want to use other models, or you're more familiar or what have you, you can still absolutely do that. A2A, what even is that? All right, agent-to-agent protocol, it is just an open standard that allows Vertex agents to assign tasks to other third-party agents. So it's really just a way, it's like TCP/IP, but for agents. They get to talk to each other, essentially. Context window. I'm sure we've probably already hit that at some point with even just our own personal stuff. And fortunately, Gemini 2.5 and onward, for those, like you're talking millions of tokens as far as context goes. So like you're probably not gonna hit that. However, there are some trade-offs for that. And so usually what we would recommend is like using Flash for agents to keep the time to the first token, which is kind of like that lag from the initial question to things actually kicking off, to under like 200 milliseconds. And actually it gets lower than that too. Model armor. Essentially, it's kind of exactly what it says it is. It's a security layer for your models. And so it's real time, it filters prompt injection, it takes care of ensuring that you're not leaking PII data anywhere, that sort of a thing. And then does this scale? Yes. I mean, just with anything else in GCP, it scales incredibly well, and to the point of just 0. So like if you're not, you could build an agent like what we just saw. If nobody in Promevo is using that agent, it's not costing us anything. It's just kind of hanging out there until somebody decides to use it. So it is, mostly a usage-based model like that. So that is also really good to know, and it is capable of handling those big bursts of usage should that occur for some reason. So basically at this point, I kind of want to just wrap things, especially considering I'm the last one up here. That really, this is where having a Google partner, this is the sales pitch, by the way, for us, like Promevo, okay? It does really pay off, because I mean, if we're really gonna be honest about things, at this point, we've really officially evolved past just simple, like glorified FAQ chatbots of like 2023-ish. Today's AI is far more advanced. It's automation. It is a powerhouse designed to supercharge business efficiency. And I am safe to say, and I know that I talk for everybody here at Promevo, that like we are very excited to help guide you through this like, agentic workplace transformation. It can be a lot. And so having somebody like us alongside with you is like super critical to kind of getting a lot of that stuff ironed out and reducing a lot of the pain points, I think, which is pretty important. So, yeah, we'll get out there, we'll build some things together, and we'll just let the agents handle like all the boring paperwork. So there you go. Thank you very much.